YURI Alpha is a character that I would love to see more in the Overlord story, and she's definitely probably one of the most positive characters when it comes to the idea of interacting with anyone outside of the tomb or anyone that's human with a positive karma of 150. YURI is one of those, I would say, workaholics. She's that school teacher, very strict, very harsh on the other maids, very much immersed in work. Everything about her is work, 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 work. 24/7. If she is not working, she will lose her marbles. And that is something that does happen in the actual Overlord story itself, in the light novels and the side story, is that, you know, she is a workaholic. She craves some form of activity, work, and it's not, you know, an uncommon trait to have among people. It's just can be a bit overwhelming for people that have to interact with someone like YURI, where you're constantly being forced to have to give that person work, and if they're not being kept busy, they become very obnoxious. But she's still a character that I really like, just because of not just her character design and her power design, but also just her personality. Because with the Pleiades maids, there is definitely those situations where some of the Pleiades maids are very much haters of humans, while some are very neutral and some are a little bit positive about it. Much like the actual Floor Guardians themselves, you've definitely got some that will do anything and everything to torture them, and then you've got others that are very neutral and positive. That is the one thing I love about the Pleiades maids and YURI, is that there's definitely that interesting mix of personalities, and that is very much the case with YURI, being very, I would say, teacher-like, very strong and firm in discipline, in making sure that everything is in order and everything is functioning as that it should be in the Great Tomb. As I said before though, with talking about how she definitely gives that teacher and that very stern and disciplined type persona, that is something that is very much based on her creator, and her creator is a teacher in real life. So you can really see that YURI has molded around what the creator is, and that is something that I've always emphasized in all my videos, and particularly the Pleiades maids ones, is that these, you know, individual creations are very much molded after their creators. And yes, the Floor Guardians follow very similar traits, though some have some differences when looking at characters like Albedo, where Albedo is not so much molded around their creator, while characters like YURI, Sebas, and Demi are. This is very interesting because YURI has that strong workaholic, very stern, strict personality, like a teacher. She's dressed almost like a teacher, acts like a teacher, presents herself in the same way as a teacher would. And that's the question. Is the creator very similar, not just in their profession, but also in that sense of sternness, workaholic, constantly needing to be busy and, you know, making sure everything is perfect and in order? And as I said before, in the same profession, though YURI is a maid, she is very much kind of that teacher. She makes sure that everyone knows what they're doing, corrects them if they've done something wrong, and that's why the other Pleiades maids see her as the big sister of the battle maids, because, you know, she essentially nurtures them, teaches them, keeps everything on track and functioning the way, again, as I said before, as the tomb should be. But when going over her abilities and power at the level of 51, which is the same as Entima, and these two characters are the weakest when it comes to levels, but I wouldn't say necessarily weakest in power, and I'll get into why, is that YURI has a very interesting character design when it comes to her racial levels. She has 10 points in zombie, which means her general weakness when it comes to zombies is to chop off their head. They're not, you know, completely immune, but the greatest weakness is generally to remove their head, and that is something that's kind of been embedded into the deep lore of zombies. But here's the kicker though, with 1 point in Dolahan, that means her head comes off, and that basically negates her greatest weakness, is the simple fact that her head does come off. There is a, you know, attachment with a collar around her neck, and so these work very close hand in hand. I would say a very clever use of racial levels, because what they've done is allowed that sort of mixture to work to her benefit, giving the Dolahan ability and the zombie racial levels. This allows her to kind of negate a lot of the weaknesses and gives her strengths in those areas. But now when going over her job level, she has 10 points in Striker, 5 points in Single Brawler, 1 point in Cook, and 24 points in Unknown. And that's kind of the interesting part about her, though she is definitely comparable to Entena when it comes to levels, I would say she's very close in design when it comes to combat to Sebas. Sebas is very much hands-on with the raw fists, while she uses fist weapons, but they do use a lot of close combat based abilities, so they're very much in your face, using a lot of physical attack, needing to take some, physical defense into action as well, and having high agility, but their magical attack can be very low, as well as magical defense isn't exactly desirable, but it's mainly a focus on physical attack, and that's what I find really quite interesting about Yuri. Zombie, Dolahan, she has the neck bracelet around the neck to keep her head attached, but it's very close combat, and that's what I really like seeing, is those fist weapons, getting into combat, banging the shields of the enemy and really pushing them back and being the forward attack, which works very well with the other Pleiades maids, which have a lot of range abilities, a lot of support abilities, some being very quick in and out, while she is very much in the front line taking the major front blows. I think this complements the overall Pleiades team as a whole, and that is something that I've noted in my other videos, is that the maids as a whole have been designed very well to have strengths and weaknesses that complement each other, where the weaknesses are, and every character design needs to have weaknesses. That makes sense for a game design perspective, but at the same time, if you can make another person's or another maid's strength the other maid's weakness, then it kind of complements each other, and then you can fill in the gaps where needed. If you need someone that's very forward, taking the major hits because the other maids are range, Yuri is the perfect person for that situation when dealing with a lot of, I would say, physical defense and physical attack and getting in and out of situations, mainly in the front line. Another thing to also note when it comes to her actual abilities itself, she's very much built around martial arts. She uses Chinese martial art techniques. She uses them to heal herself and her allies. I find her character design probably one of the most fascinating when it comes to design itself, because it's probably one of the ones that we really don't know much about. We've seen a little bit of it in the light novels and the anime, but we haven't really gotten to see a lot of the names of the abilities, a lot more of the job levels, and how the zombie and the Dolahan really synergize well. We can get a general good grasp of it, being zombie and Dolahan, and how they generally function on a racial level, but seeing that fully work together, I'm very interested, as well as the job levels itself. I'm quite interested to see how Brawler and Striker work quite well, because I see Striker as very much getting in and out of situations very quickly, while single Brawler can take a bit of that raw damage as well, so it allows her to get in quickly, do damage, and if she needs to pull back, then she can do that. And of course, another one of the maids being very physical as well would allow that to be sort of a rotating situation, rotating tanks in a sense. And I think that again is just perfect synergy among the maids as a whole. But just going over a last couple of things to kind of wrap this sort of video up of talking about Yuri. The other thing is that she can fly like the other actual maids itself, but she can only fly when using an item that was given to her by Ainz or lended. And this is kind of the thing, she does have some weaknesses when it comes to her abilities, but has, ways to compensate that with gear and equipment, etc. So I'm very interested to see further on in the actual light novels itself. Especially would like to see all the maids work as a team and seeing how that synergy works. I just would like to see what some of her other abilities are called, how they function, how that support / healing works. Overall, I think she's just a very well designed character, because her racial levels really are quite an interesting synergy as well, because where her weaknesses are is also where her strengths are, because they've compensated with interesting racials, and then where her actual combat standpoint weaknesses are, the other maids can compensate in that area. So overall, I would love to see more of her in the light novel and seeing that workaholic personality. She definitely gets along with the other maids, and the other maids really do look up to her as that big sister. So I just look forward to seeing her more as a whole. Love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. Who's your favorite maid? Who's your favorite floor guardian, and would you like to see more of her, and in what sort of standpoint? Personality, scene interactions, or combat, or maybe both? Love to know your thoughts in the comment section down below. One last thing to quickly note before I end this video is that I will be doing some more videos on the maids. I know currently I basically have a video currently out for each maid that's going over a lot of the basic stuff, combat, strengths, weaknesses, personalities, but I will be doing some fact-based videos on all the maids, as well as kind of dabbling into some of the other minor story components at a later date. So if you are looking forward to some more Pleiades maids content, definitely have more coming out in the future to come, along with other Overlord content as well. But if you like this video, hit the like button, subscribe for more anime content, and I will see you beautiful nerds in the next video.